Hello, lovely viewers. Welcome to your favorite cooking channel. Once again, this is Cooking with Abba. Welcome to all our new subscribers and all our new family members. If it's your first time watching, do watch, and then when you're done, share the love, of course, with your friends and family as well. So today I'm doing fufu. Yes, fufu recipe. This is an executive twist fufu, but then it's the same local Tim fufu. So yes, this is one way we store our cassava and our plantain. Usually when you have a lot of fresh cassava, fresh plantain, the best thing to do is to dress it up, wash it, dress it up, and then put it in the deep freezer. So for your cassava, you'd want to peel it up before you put it in your Ziploc into your deep freezer. For your plantain, you'd want to wash and then cut it and put it in your deep freezer. So you begin by putting your pan on fire, you pour in your water, and then you just assemble your cassava and plantain in there. You can put your cassava down or your plantain down. The arrangement depends on you. But usually at my end, we tend to put the plantain up because the plantain is the first thing we pound because that easily becomes hard. And when your plantain is hard, it's hard to pound and get it perfectly smooth. But once it's hot and fresh from fire and you pound, it's always smoother. So we like to put it up on top. Yes, and you need to be careful. When the water is too much, it's going to overly flow and you may have to drain off like we did. And yeah, when your cassava is cooked, you realize the plantain will be poking out of the skin and you realize your cassava is going to look softer and cooked all through. You can use your toothpick or your fork to check, and you just wash your mortar and your pestle and you set it up. So usually when you're setting it up, you have to put a towel beneath your mortar so it doesn't do so much noise around, and it gives you stability as well. And of course, we're going to remove the skin of the plantain and then we begin by pounding it. So this one, I did shoot with my very good cousins and yes, my sister-in-law as well. So shout out to Sister Aisha and Bafi. Yes. I think my family, I think one of those days I should do a special family session because they've all been very supportive in my YouTube journey by far. And yes, thank you to all of you. I love you all. So I begin by pounding my plantain. Now, one thing you should know about plantain is that when it's very green and it's fresh, it's a bit flaky. Yes, so it's very hard to bind and get it perfectly together. So what we do usually around here is that when you pound it, you add a bit of cassava to it and you pound for it to mix perfectly. So that helps you bind it together before you take it out and then work only on your cassava and then you mix the two up. So this is how I do the cassava. So to make your work easy, you can put in your cassava, take your time, pound it properly. And as you hit on it, you try to drag it a little bit. So it's like you're kind of, you hit it, it's going to spread. So you hit it gently so that it doesn't mix up all over. And then you just drag it to the back a little bit with your pestle. What that does is that it makes it even well put together early. So instead of just hitting the cassava, which is going to make some spread, and when you're done, you end up getting some lumps in there. This is how to soften it. And when you do your cassava pounding this way, you don't feel much like strain on your hands than doing that workout where you're just hitting. This is the same like by yourself, but then you could just do this easily. And when you do it like this, whoever stands on to help you like finish it up, especially when it's a large batch, you both won't suffer. So this is a win-win situation for everybody and you get good looking fufu. So I just pound the rest of the cassava. Then once that is done, I add in the plantain to it and then you combine it together. So this is cassava plantain fufu straight up from Ghana with that executive twist. You know, these days career women and busy folks, even the career men, sometimes you don't really have so much time to be doing your fufu. So always make sure that when you have fresh cassava, you freeze some And then when you're ready for your fufu, you don't really waste so much time. And you're going to get the same result too. It's just like you using fresh cassava because it's still the same cassava. So this is one simple way. And when you're done, you're going to put in some water and you're going to cut, and then of course you're going to just fold it up and then put it in your bowl for serving. So the softness you'd want depends on you. If you want it very soft, you've got to pound it for a longer time. Resist the temptation of using so much water in there just to soften things up. Resist that temptation. But then this is how to go about your fufu the local way. Now, I told you your plantain, when it's too green and it's too fresh, it becomes flaky. So I'm doing one which the plantain is honey hot. It's not ripe, but then because of the temperature around here, it was looking a bit yellow, but it's not really ripe in here. It's unripe plantain, and you can see from there. So in my house, this is what we do very often. So you can use the fresh cassava, like I said, or you can use the frozen cassava. The frozen cassava, you can even decide to wash it a bit before you put it on fire with your water and then go. And your fresh cassava, you can just peel it up, wash it, and then arrange it in your pan, put your plantain on. And we add a little bit of salt because as we are pounding the fufu, we are eating the cassava. So when you add the salt, you see like that sort of ampesi kind of feeling. So as you're pounding, you can be enjoying the cassava as well. And the little ones can be picking some cassava to eat as well. And sometimes my mom likes the fufu very neat and clean. So she doesn't like the black dots on, especially when it comes to the plantain. So sometimes you can try to move the inner part of the plantain if you so choose to. But I don't mind eating with or without the inner part of the plantain. I think I like the inner part in there, having the whole plantain in there. But then my mom likes a fufu very neat. So you can try to move the inner part of the plantain, the black ones, to also make your fufu look neater and nicer. Yeah, so once you're done, I can always say you pound in your plantain first. Plantain, when it gets cold or when it cools down, it's a bit hard to pound perfectly. You'd realize you'd have issue. And realize there's no cassava going in, but you realize that it was like well starchy, it was binding together properly. It's because the sugars have started building or forming, unlike the other one. And when you do your cassava, sometimes the outside skin will not look too neat and too nice. So you can just use your knife to scrape the outer part, remove the inner overly soft part so that your fufu doesn't get chaka chaka or manya manya. And then you can put it in and you pound. So like I always say, you can pound your fufu in this way, which saves you a lot of time. Because when you are done, the fufu is virtually almost done. You just need to combine it properly and then you are done. Than just hitting it anywhere, anyhow, and then it flakes all over. So you hit and you try to drag it a bit. So it's like, oh my fufu and then you just mix your plantain into it and then you mix it properly for it to fully blend. Now, sometimes when your fufu is hard, what you can do is you can put a little bit of water around it and then you can flip it and then just pound all through it to get it softened. So that is one way to go about it. When you are done, you cut and then you use the corners of your mortar bowl to mold your fufu shapes. So when you're molding, you're not going to hit it hard like you were hitting when you were pounding. You need to be gentle with it, or it's going to stick. And when you need to have enough water around or in your bowl to help it become slippery for it to slip, or else your fufu is going to stick into your wardrobe and you're not going to get the perfect shapes and designs. So this is about fufu the local way, but then in a very easier form to go with. So once you're done, make sure you clean your mortar well, the mortar in your pestle. So your wardrobe and your joma. This is how to clean it up. You just use a sponge. Don't use metal sponge because this is something you're going to eat directly. If you use metal sponge and some get stuck in the corners, you never know. It may go into your fufu and you'd hurt yourself. So it's always good you just use a sponge. You can reserve a sponge for cleaning your wardrobe, or you can just use your kitchen sponge and you can just wash the inside and wash the ends. If you have holes at the side, please desist from using knife in there, because actually using knife, you're going to deepen the holes with time. So just use your sponge and use the tip of the sponge to do that cleaning properly. The sponge is the best cleaner for your mortar. And for the pestle, I like to use my hand a bit to remove the excess fufu remains over there first before I use the sponge, and I use my hand again to make sure that the finishing is well done. And when you're done, put it at a place where it can drain off beautifully. Air is going to pass in, but it's not going to have direct sunlight. If you have your mortar and your pestle in direct sunlight, what happens is that they begin to crack very early. So you need to desist from that. And this is one other way to do fufu. And this is a very touching video for me, because the last video I shot with a very good friend I lost some years ago, Anita, and we're very close, and she's very dear to my heart. So wherever she is, God bless her soul. But this is one thing, or one fufu recipe we used to do a lot. And unfortunately, that time I wasn't videoing, I wasn't really doing the YouTube thing, but I have pictures of it I wanted to share as well. So what we did was to grate the cassava and the plantain, and then you just blend it up to get the paste form. Use as little water as possible so it doesn't come out too soft. And then when you're done, you put it in your saucepan and you just cook it up. You don't really need any salt in there because we don't use salt for fufu. So once you cook it, it's going to bind together, and you can dress it beautifully in your sanka and you serve with your soup. So do live life to the fullest, be joyous, be merry. Support the channel by watching, subscribing, liking, and share. Lots of love for my team and I. Mwah.